She is love, but not soft love. She is fire, iron, and vengeance wrapped in the body of a mother. Erzili Dantò, the scarred goddess of Haitian Vodou, is one of the fiercest spirits in the entire pantheon. She is the elder Doliwe who embodies the contradictions of love itself: tenderness and rage, nurture and destruction, silence and thunder. She is the mother who feeds and protects, but she is also the fire that burns enemies to ash. Her very presence forces us to ask a question that reaches far beyond mythology. How can love be both tender and fierce, protective and revolutionary? Erzili Dantò stands as the patroness of women, children, and the oppressed. She is the spirit of single mothers who sacrifice everything to keep their families alive, the goddess of women who fight not just with tears, but with blades. She does not represent the sweet romantic longing of Erzili Freda, her more delicate counterpart. Danto's love is earthy, raw, and uncompromising. It is the love of a mother who will go hungry to feed her child. It is the love of a protector who would rather die than surrender those she guards. Her silence is famous in Vodou tradition, for she rarely speaks. But when she does, her words cut deeper than a machete. And when she acts, her fire cannot be contained. Her scar tells its own story. Some say it came from a betrayal, a wound carved into her face as a mark of survival. Others say it is a symbol of her pain, her rage, and her refusal to be silenced. In Vodou imagery, she is often syncretized with the Black Madonna of Chestochowa, another mother figure marked by scars. To her followers, those scars are not disfigurements. They are badges of defiance, proof that even when wounded, she continues to fight. But Erzili Dantò is not only a mother of protection, she is also the LWA of revolution. At the legendary Bwa Kayiman ceremony in 1791, where enslaved Africans pledged themselves to the fight for liberation, it was Erzili Dantò who was invoked. Her fire became the spiritual fuel of the Haitian Revolution, the only successful slave revolt in history that created a free black republic. She was the mother of resistance, the warrior goddess who gave her children courage to wield machetes against empires. Her story is one of blood, love, sacrifice, and triumph. And it is a story that still burns today. If you believe Erzili Dantò's story must be told, comment a fire emoji and like this video so we can show the world who she truly was. Erzili Dantò is one of the most complex and commanding LWA of Haitian Vodou, a spirit whose roots stretch back to the Dahomey Kingdom among the Fon people of West Africa. In Dahomey, there existed a pantheon of powerful female spirits known for their connection to fertility, war, and protection. When enslaved Africans were forced across the Atlantic into Haiti, these spirits came with them, carried in memory, ritual, and song. They were transformed in the crucible of slavery, reshaped by pain and resilience into fierce protectors who embodied both survival and defiance. Erzili Dantò is the living result of that transformation, the African mother spirit reborn in Haiti as a goddess of love, fire, and revolution. In the Vodou pantheon, Erzili Dantò embodies the archetype of the single mother. She is not the soft, pampered lady of leisure. She is the woman who carries a child on her hip while working the fields, the mother who suffers silently to keep her family alive, the matriarch who knows both the sweetness of love and the bitterness of betrayal. Her love is deep, but it is not delicate. It is gritty, enduring, and sacrificial. She represents all the women who are left without partners, abandoned by men or betrayed by systems, yet still found ways to protect, feed, and raise their children. For many of her followers, Erzili Dantò is not a distant goddess, but an intimate mirror of their own struggles, one who understands their pain because she carries her own, Her role as a protector extends beyond the home. She is invoked by women who face abuse, by children who are abandoned, and by all marginalized people who live on the edge of survival. She stands with the oppressed, the voiceless, and the wounded. To pray to Erzili Dantò is to call upon a mother who does not pity you, but who rises in your defense. She is the awagbe of those who endure hardship in silence but roar in fire when provoked. It is this duality, silence and fury, endurance and eruption, that makes her one of the most respected and feared spirits in Haitian Vodou. She is the goddess who speaks in silence but roars in fire. To understand Erzili Dantò fully, it is important to contrast her with her counterpart, Erzili Freda. While Danto embodies sacrifice, struggle, and protective love, Freda represents luxury, romantic desire, and refined beauty. Freda is associated with perfumes, jewelry, silks, and indulgent forms of love. She is courted and worshipped with sweet offerings and delicate songs. Danto, by contrast, is given hearty offerings, strong drinks laced with hot peppers, the blood of black pigs, and the heavy pounding of drums. Freda's love is romantic, dreamy, and sometimes fragile. Danto's love is raw, practical, and uncompromising. Where Freda might sigh, Danto might strike. Where Freda dreams of being adored, Danto demands loyalty and gives ferocity in return. The scar across Erzili Dantò's face is central to her identity, symbolizing betrayal, pain, and survival. In some traditions, it is said to have come from a violent fight, perhaps even with her sister Freda, when jealousy and anger boiled over. In other tellings, it represents the suffering of enslaved women, the wounds carried by mothers who endured the unendurable. Whatever its origin, the scar is not a mark of shame, but a seal of power. It declares that Danto is not untouchable, but wounded and still unbroken. Her silence, too, is significant. Unlike many LWA, she rarely speaks through her horses, the devotees who are possessed by her during ceremonies. Instead, she is said to communicate through gestures, grunts, or tears. Yet this silence is more powerful than any speech. It conveys volumes, and when she does roar, it is unforgettable. Erzili Dantò is thus not merely a spirit of myth, but a living force in the imagination and practice of Vodou. She embodies the strength of African women carried into the diaspora, reshaped in the fire of Haiti's struggle for freedom. She is the mother who suffers and the warrior who fights. She is both tenderness and fury, vulnerability and defiance. Above all, she is the reminder that love is not always gentle. Sometimes love is iron, machete, and fire. And Erzili Dantò remains its fiercest incarnation. The symbols of Erzili Dantò tell her story as clearly as any myth. Perhaps the most striking is the scar carved across her face, a mark that has come to define her iconography. In the tradition, this scar is more than an injury, it is a signature. It represents betrayal and survival, the violence that leaves its mark but does not destroy. Some legends say the scar was inflicted by Erzili Freda, her sister and rival, during a bitter conflict of jealousy. Others interpret it as a symbol of the collective suffering of enslaved women, a mark of the brutalities they endured. But in every version, the scar is not a weakness. It is proof that Erzili Dantò endures wounds and transforms them into power. Her scar is the reminder that pain, when carried with dignity, becomes sacred strength. Her colors also reveal her character. Erzili Dantò is most often associated with blue and red. Red symbolizes her fire, her rage, her revolutionary energy. It is the color of blood, of sacrifice, of passion that consumes and protects. Blue represents her maternal side, the depth of her love, her endurance, and her silence. Together, These colors capture the duality of her being, the nurturing mother and the avenging warrior. In Haitian Vodou practice, her altars are often decorated with cloths of red and blue, candles glowing in both hues, and vivis, her sacred drawings, inscribed in chalk or ash. These colors not only identify her presence but also set the tone for the rituals dedicated to her, filling the space with both her love and her fire. In Catholic syncretism, Erzili Dantò is often merged with the Black Madonna of Czestochowa, a revered icon of the Virgin Mary with dark skin and significantly scars on her face. This syncretization was not accidental. Enslaved Africans in Haiti, forced into Catholic worship, recognized in the Black Madonna an image that resonated with Erzili Dantò. The scars on the Madonna's face mirrored Danto's own. Her maternal presence reflected Danto's protective role. By hiding the goddess behind the figure of the Virgin Mary, Vodou practitioners ensured that Erzili Dantò could survive under colonial scrutiny. The blending of these figures is a testament to resilience, an ingenious way of preserving African spirituality under oppression, embedding Danto's essence into Catholic imagery without losing her power. Her offerings are some of the most dramatic and visceral in the Vodou pantheon. Erzili Dantò accepts black pigs, an offering of deep symbolic weight connected to the revolutionary sacrifices of Bwa Kayiman. She also receives rum infused with hot pepper, a fiery drink that reflects her fierce and consuming nature. Knives are sacred to her as symbols of both protection and vengeance. Fire itself is one of her most important elements. Flames are lit in her honor, both as a sign of purification and as an invocation of her consuming energy. Unlike Erzili Freda, who is offered sweets, perfumes, and delicate luxuries, Erzili Dantò's offerings are hearty, raw, and powerful. They mirror her own essence, earthy, uncompromising, and fierce. Music is another way she is called into presence. Sacred rhythms and drumming styles summon Erzili Dantò in ceremonies. The drums for her are not gentle. They are strong, pounding, insistent, echoing the heartbeat of revolution. The rhythms used to invoke her often carry a martial edge, reminding participants of her role as a warrior and protector. In these ceremonies, when the drums speak, Erzili Dantò arrives. She may mount one of her devotees, possessing them with her spirit. When this happens, she rarely speaks, but her presence is unmistakable. She moves with fire, gestures fiercely, and sometimes sheds tears that embody both sorrow and defiance. Together, these symbols, attributes, and offerings form a language, a code by which Erzili Dantò reveals herself to her followers. Her scar tells of wounds that became strength. Her colors express her dual nature of love and fire. Her syncretic connection to the Black Madonna links her to a global image of suffering and maternal power. Her offerings remind us of sacrifice and her uncompromising demands. Her rhythms call her forth, allowing the community to feel her power directly. To know these symbols is to know Erzili Dantò, the goddess who lives in fire, silence, and the fierce devotion of her people. In 1791, on the eve of the most extraordinary revolution in world history, enslaved Africans gathered in a forest under heavy rain. They came together in secret, bound not by fear, but by a hunger for freedom that burned hotter than the torches they carried. This was the ceremony of Bwa Kayiman, the spark that ignited the Haitian Revolution. Vodou priests and priestesses led the gathering, calling upon the LWA to stand with the enslaved in their desperate struggle. Among the spirits invoked that night, none was more present, more fierce, more commanding than Erzili Dantò. She was not called as a distant goddess, but as a mother, a protector, a warrior whose fire would fuel an uprising that would change the world forever. Erzili Dantò became the spiritual patron of the Haitian Revolution. Her energy was invoked as the mother warrior who protects her children. And in this case, her children were the enslaved men and women of Saint-Domingue. The French Empire had built its wealth on their backs, extracting sugar, coffee, and cotton through unimaginable brutality. Whips, chains, and torture were their daily reality. Families were torn apart. Women were assaulted, children sold, men worked to death. And yet, in the midst of this horror, Erzili Dantò stood as a beacon of defiance. She was the LWA who understood suffering because she bore scars of her own. She was the goddess who knew betrayal, silence, and fire. For the enslaved, she was not an abstract deity. She was kin. At Bwa Kayiman, legend says that a black pig was sacrificed, its blood spilling onto the ground as a covenant was made. The oath sworn that night was not only political but spiritual, freedom or death, and the LWA as witnesses. Erzili Dantò was among those who received the offering, and her presence electrified the gathering. Her fire was not the gentle glow of a hearth, it was the blaze of revolution. It is said that cries of freedom echoed with her name, and those possessed by her spirit roared with the conviction that chains would soon be broken. The enslaved believed that she, the fierce mother, would guide their machetes, protect their children, and bless their rebellion. From that night forward, Erzili Dantò became inseparable from the revolution. She was painted in the hearts of women who carried machetes into the cane fields, setting fire to plantations. She was invoked by warriors who risked everything, seeing her not only as a goddess, but as the spiritual embodiment of their rage and their love. Women especially carried her fire. Enslaved mothers who had watched their children sold or murdered rose with machetes in hand, fighting not only for freedom, but for the sacred duty of protecting their blood. They saw themselves in Danto, and she in them. Her silence became their endurance. Her scar became their mark of survival. Her fire became their weapon. In Vodou songs, she is often described as a mother who both weeps and burns, who holds her child close with one arm and strikes with the other. This duality made her the perfect revolutionary patron. To the enslaved, freedom was not an abstract political ideal. It was life itself. It was the right to hold one's child without fear of them being torn away. It was the right to live as human beings, not property. Erzili Dantò embodied this longing. She was the mother of fire who demanded that no one harm her children again. As plantations went up in flames and the French Empire shook under the weight of rebellion, her spirit was seen in every act of resistance. To burn a plantation was not only political sabotage, but spiritual warfare. Every swing of the machete, every torch set to the cane, was infused with her presence. Behind every act of rebellion was not only rage but love. The fierce love of survival, of dignity, of family. This is the emotional core of Erzili Dantò's power. She teaches that love is not passive. Love fights. Love protects. Love burns down the structures that threaten to destroy it. Behind every revolution, there was a mother's fire. The Haitian Revolution did what no empire believed possible. It overthrew slavery and colonial rule, creating the first free black republic in the world. It was a victory born of strategy, courage, and sacrifice, but also of faith in spirits like Erzili Dantò. She was more than inspiration. She was the sacred presence who gave the enslaved people the belief that liberation was not only necessary, but inevitable. In her silence, they found endurance. In her scar, they found recognition. In her fire, they found the strength to rise. Today, when people look back on the Haitian Revolution, they see Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines,
and other leaders who led armies into battle. But behind those leaders were the LWA, and behind those Lewe, Erzili Dantò's flame. She was the fierce mother who would not abandon her children. She was the revolutionary spirit disguised as love. And through her, the enslaved became not victims, but warriors. Mothers became generals, and the broken became unbreakable. Her role in Haiti's liberation proves that love, when fierce enough, can ignite revolutions.
Love is often imagined as gentle, forgiving, and endlessly patient. But Erzili Dantò forces us to see a different face of love, one that is just as protective as it is tender, just as fierce as it is nurturing. Her very essence is built on this duality. She is the mother who weeps with her children, but she is also the warrior who sets fire to her enemies. Her love heals the wounded, but it also strikes down traitors without hesitation. To understand Erzili Dantò is to understand that love, when fully alive, is not passive. It is active, and sometimes that action requires fire. Her maternal energy is the foundation of this duality. She represents the archetype of the single mother who bears the weight of survival, who sacrifices everything for her children, and who refuses to let them be harmed. But this same maternal energy that feeds and protects also contains a fierce edge. When threatened, her love becomes a shield and then a weapon. This is not contradiction, but completeness. For the enslaved people of Haiti who saw their children taken, their families torn apart, and their dignity denied, this kind of love was not just symbolic, it was survival itself. Erzili Dantò embodied the truths they lived every day. Love must sometimes fight. Her silence also reflects this duality. Unlike many spirits who speak through those they possess, Danto is famously quiet. She communicates through gestures, tears, and intensity rather than words. This silence carries both tenderness and menace. It can be the silence of a mother rocking her child, or the silence before the strike of a blade. In her stillness, there is both comfort and warning. To those who love her and remain loyal, she is the most nurturing protector. But to those who betray her or harm her children, her silence is the calm before fire. Her revolutionary role deepens this theme. The enslaved did not call upon Erzili Dantò simply because she was a mother figure. They invoked her because her love was fierce enough to burn plantations, strong enough to break chains. The same fire that warmed her children also consumed their oppressors. This duality is what made her such a potent force in the Haitian Revolution. She taught that love is not weakness, it is strength. But strength must sometimes destroy to protect what it loves most. This balance of nurturing and destruction defines her energy. Her altars may hold images of the Black Madonna, symbolizing her protective and sorrowful mother side, but they also hold knives, peppers, and offerings of fire, reflecting her capacity for vengeance. Her devotees honor her with both tears and flame, acknowledging that her nature is not split, but whole. She is not two different beings. She is one force that expresses itself in different ways, depending on what love demands. Erzili Dantò challenges us to ask ourselves what kind of love we honor. Do we believe love should endure anything, even harm? Or do we accept that true love must sometimes fight, cut, and even destroy to keep the beloved safe? She embodies the paradox that many mothers, fighters, and protectors know in their bones. Love without strength is fragile, and strength without love is cruel. But when the two are fused, they become unbreakable. In this duality lies her greatest lesson. Love is not only about holding and healing, it is about defending, and, when necessary, burning away what threatens. Erzili Dantò is both the heart that comforts and the machete that protects. She embodies a cosmic law. The fire of love does not only warm, it also purifies, consumes, and clears the way for freedom. And so the question becomes, if Erzili Dantò stood before you, would you carry her heart or her machete? Today, Erzili Dantò is as alive as ever. Though centuries have passed since the ceremony of Bwa Kayiman and the fires of revolution, her presence continues to shape Haitian Vodou and the cultural identity of the Haitian people. In shrines, in songs, in the whispers of mothers, and in the defiance of women, Erzili Dantò endures. She is still called, still honored, and still revered as one of the most powerful LWA, the fierce mother who protects, the silent warrior who burns, and the revolutionary who never abandoned her children. In Vodou practice, she is honored through veves, sacred symbols drawn on the ground with cornmeal, ash, or flour to invoke her presence. The veve of Erzili Dantò often incorporates hearts, flames, and crosses, reminding her followers of her dual nature as both lover and warrior. During ceremonies, her vive is drawn on the floor of the peristyle, the ritual space, and offerings are placed upon it. Rum laced with fiery peppers, black pigs in memory of Bwa Kayiman, and knives as symbols of her protective ferocity. The drums begin to speak her rhythms, pounding out the heartbeat of revolution, calling her from silence into presence. And when she arrives, her arrival is unmistakable. Possessed devotees may weep, gesture with intensity, or strike the air with knives, embodying her energy in ways that remind everyone of who she is: fierce, protective, and uncompromising. Beyond the ritual space, Erzili Dantò lives in the Haitian imagination as a national symbol of survival and resistance. She is the LWA most closely tied to the revolution that gave birth to Haiti, and so her image carries a deep sense of pride. To honor Erzili Dantò is to honor the mothers who sacrificed everything, the women who carried the revolution on their backs, and the ancestors who endured unthinkable suffering yet refused to be broken. Her presence in Haitian identity is not limited to religion. She has become a cultural archetype, a reminder that the nation itself was born from fire, sacrifice, and fierce maternal love. In the diaspora, her image has traveled across oceans, finding new life in communities of Haitians living abroad and in the growing global interest in Vodou as an African diasporic faith. Shrines to Erzili Dantò appear in cities far from Haiti, kept by those who continue to call on her for protection, strength, and guidance. Her veve is painted on walls, her colors worn in protests, and her story told in art, literature, and music. For the diaspora, she represents not only connection to ancestral faith, but also the endurance of Haitian spirit, the refusal to let culture and identity be erased. In recent years, Erzili Dantò has also been embraced as a feminist symbol. Women see in her not only a goddess, but a mirror of their own struggles. The single mothers who fight daily battles for their children, the survivors of violence who carry scars but remain unbroken, the activists who challenge injustice with both love and fire. She embodies the truth that femininity is not weakness and motherhood is not submission. She is a reminder that women's love can be fierce, protective, and revolutionary. In protests and movements, she emerges as an icon of strength, invoked in chants, painted in murals, and embodied in the voices of women who will not be silenced. For the oppressed, Erzili Dantò remains a goddess of hope and defiance. She is called upon by those who feel unseen, unheard, or powerless, because she herself speaks in silence, yet roars with fire. To the marginalized, she is proof that even in scars there is beauty, even in pain there is power, and even in silence there is a revolution. Her story continues to resonate because it is not just history, it is living truth. Erzili Dantò today is more than a LWA. She is a force of memory, a fire that refuses to die, a mother whose love stretches across centuries. She is as present in the drumming circles of Port-au-Prince as she is in the murals of New York or the protests of women across the world. Her story is not over. It is still unfolding. She reminds us that love can heal, but it can also burn. That silence can endure, but it can also erupt. And that behind every struggle for survival, behind every revolution, there is always a mother's fire.
Erzili Dantò's story is not simply the tale of a goddess in the Vodou pantheon. It is the living testimony of what love can be when it refuses to surrender. She is the scarred mother, the fierce protector, the silent presence who weeps with her children and rises in fire to defend them. She is at once lover, mother, warrior, and revolutionary flame. Through her, we see that love is never one-dimensional. It is soft and tender, yes, but it is also iron, machete, and vengeance when the beloved is threatened. From the forests of Bwa Kayiman to the altars of modern Vodou practitioners, Erzili Dantò has carried the same message across centuries. Love must protect. Her scar reminds us that pain does not destroy, it transforms. Her silence teaches that endurance can be more powerful than words. Her fire shows us that love, when it burns fiercely enough, can bring down empires. The enslaved called upon her not only to comfort them but to ignite the revolution. And through her, they became unbreakable. The lesson she offers is clear. Love is not weakness, it is fire. And Erzili Dantò teaches us that to love is to protect, to fight, to endure. To love is to make sacrifice, to carry scars, and to strike when necessary. Hers is the kind of love that heals the wounded and burns the oppressor, that feeds the hungry and silences the traitor. She is the reminder that the fiercest revolutions are born not from hatred, but from love too deep to allow suffering to continue. Her presence remains alive today in Vodou temples, in Haitian identity, in feminist movements, and in every oppressed community that calls on her for strength. She is not locked in the past. She breathes in the present, reminding us that love is at its most divine when it protects, when it fights, when it endures. So here is the final invocation. If you believe love should protect, type Fire Erzili Lives in the comments. Let her fire spread, let her story be told, and let her remind the world that the scarred mother still walks among us. And as always, if this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to History Store, where the voices of the ancestors and the flames of forgotten revolutions continue to live.